Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tackling something pretty mind-bending: how computer science actually borrows from biology to solve impossible calculations. We're looking at population-based optimization methods. It's this fascinating intersection where nature's oldest survival strategies become our most cutting-edge digital algorithms. Okay, let's dive into this. Just look at this massive weather event captured off the coast of Western Australia. What you're seeing is the incredibly rare Fujiwara effect, where two tropical cyclones, in this case Saroja and 27S, actually start orbiting each other. Now, just imagine trying to simulate or predict something that complex. Simulating a weather model with all its moving parts, like temperature, humidity, and atmospheric stability, is unbelievably computationally expensive. Even if running your model once is relatively cheap, doing it millions of times to find the absolute perfect predictive parameters, yeah, that quickly becomes impossible. So it begs the question, how on earth do we tune a model when evaluating the data costs so much time and computing power? We clearly can't just guess randomly, right? We need an algorithm that makes every single evaluation counts. Every time we run that model, it gives us precious, hard-earned information about this black box search space. We literally have to squeeze every drop of knowledge from those trials to figure out exactly where the optimal solution is hiding.
And honestly, this right here brilliantly illustrates the problem we are up against. This totally intimidating, spiky landscape is a 3D plot of the rastrogen function, which is a classic test for optimization algorithms. See all those peaks and valleys? Well, traditional search methods fail completely in highly modal spaces like this, spaces with tons of deceiving local peaks. Why? Because a simple algorithm will just climb the very first peak it finds and stop, totally convinced it's reached the highest point overall. It completely misses the true summit hidden somewhere on the other side of the graph.
To put it simply, your basic brute force algorithms or hill climbing methods are virtually useless here. The complexity is just way too high, the dimensions are too vast, and those local optima traps, those smaller fake peaks we just looked at, they will trick your algorithm every single time. Trying every possible coordinate in a high-dimensional space like that is just computationally infeasible. We need a fundamentally different approach. Section 1. Nature's ultimate solution. So, to solve this absolute computational nightmare, we have to pivot away from traditional math and look toward a masterclass in adaptation: biological systems. This brings us to the fundamental question behind population-based methods. Instead of sending out one lone algorithm to blindly feel its way through a dark room, what if we sent in a whole population? Can a collection of points working together tell us more about the search space than individual points acting entirely on their own? Or, as the saying goes, can the whole tell you more than the sum of its parts? Well, the answer is a resounding yes, and biological evolution is our proof. Evolution has literally been solving this exact optimization problem for eons. Think about it for a second. Evolution maintains lots of candidate solutions, living organisms, and iteratively improves them to adapt and survive in completely diverse, ever-changing environments. It's basically the ultimate meta-learning system, collectively storing information about what works and what doesn't right there in the genome. Section 2, Darwin versus Lamarck. But before we can successfully translate biological evolution into computer code, we first need to understand the historical debate around how traits are actually passed on from generation to generation. Let's take a quick step back into the early 19th century. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck proposed that individuals passed on traits they actively acquired during their lifetimes. So, for example, if a giraffe spent its whole life stretching its neck to reach higher leaves, Lamarck thought its offspring would literally be born with longer necks. But about 50 years later, Charles Darwin, along with Alfred Russel Wallace, proposed natural selection as the main engine. Basically, giraffes that just happened to be born with longer necks survived to reproduce. Comparing the two side by side, Lamarckism is all about passing down individual, lifetime adaptations directly in response to the environment. Darwinism, on the other hand, relies on the natural selection of innate, random variations over a much, much longer period of time. For computer science, figuring out which model actually works is absolutely crucial for building our algorithms. To finally settle this debate, a scientist named August Weismann decided to prove Darwin right and definitively refute Lamarck. He set up an experiment where he actually cut off the tails of mice for 19 consecutive generations. If Lamarck's theory held up, the mice should eventually be born without tails, right? But generation after generation, the acquired trait was never passed on. The babies always had tails, This established what's known as the Weissman barrier, permanently separating genetic inheritance from physical, lifetime changes. Now, as a really fascinating detour, modern epigenetics actually hints that Lamarck might not have been completely wrong after all. We know today that environmental factors can influence how genes are expressed, even without altering the underlying DNA sequence itself. It's a brilliant biological twist. But for our digital optimization algorithms, the classic Darwinian model of random variation and selection gives us a much cleaner, more practical starting point.
Section 3. Algorithms in action. Let's jump over to the code and see exactly how this biological history builds the foundation for our algorithmic optimization. The core population-based algorithm mimics Darwinian nature in 3 really simple repeating steps. First, assess fitness. You evaluate your whole population of digital candidates and keep only the absolute fittest ones. Second, breed. You mutate those surviving parents to create a brand new generation of children. And third, join. You replace the old population with a new one and just repeat the cycle. Over time, your solutions organically evolve and get better and better.
Section 4. Balancing the search. Now, to make these algorithms actually work in practice, the real magic lies entirely in how they handle 2 fiercely competing forces during that mutation phase. To succeed, the system has to constantly weigh exploration against exploitation. Exploration is kind of like casting a wide net. It's a random walk, trying to find completely new areas of our spiky 3D search space. Exploitation, on the other hand, focuses heavily on taking a promising local solution and refining it. If you only explore, you're never going to hone in on the best answer. But if you only exploit, well, that leads to a pretty critical error. Because if you exploit too much, you run headfirst into the danger of premature convergence. This happens when your digital population loses its genetic diversity way too soon. The entire population gets permanently trapped on one of those smaller, fake peaks we saw earlier, a local optimum, falsely believing it's the absolute best solution out there. If this was our cyclone model, we'd be making a wildly inaccurate weather prediction just because we didn't explore enough to see the real data mountain right next door. To fix this, our algorithms desperately need an adaptive mutation rate. So, the million-dollar question is, how do we know when to change our mutation rate? This brings us to a brilliant heuristic known as the 1/5 rule. We basically continuously adapt the mutation variance based on exactly how many children outperform their parents. If more than 1/5 of the children are fitter, it means things are too easy. We're exploiting a local optimum too much, so we need to increase the mutation variance to force more exploration. On the flip side, if less than 1/5 are fitter, we're exploring too wildly and need to decrease the variance to converge. And if it's exactly 1/5, bam, we've achieved perfect mathematical balance. And finding that sweet spot is exactly how we can finally tune that impossible tropical cyclone model from earlier, landing on the right parameters without wasting a single drop of computational power. These algorithms are incredibly powerful, leveraging the sheer genius of natural selection to solve problems humans could never, ever calculate by brute force alone. But since different parts of a search space have different characteristics, and the real world certainly isn't static, it leaves us with one pretty provocative question. If we model our algorithms entirely after biology, how will our digital populations survive when the environment, the very parameters of the problem itself, shifts right beneath their feet? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.